So I house hack. So I rent out my rooms to other nurses. So actually, I don't have a mortgage because my mortgage is covered by my renters. And I'm all about diversification. I'm also big on index funds. So I started off with the stock market, but now after my first house hack, it inspired me. I saw the potential of a wealth building tool that real estate is. So I actually just closed on my second property 2 months ago. So even though I was making on paper, I made 200,000 a year for 2 years, 2021 and 2022. I lived like I was making 60,000. So all that income that I saved, then I used it to put a down payment on my house.
What is up, guys? Jason here. Welcome back to the channel in our series, Nurses to Riches, The Road to Fire. Today's guest is going to blow your mind. At just 25 years old, she's not only crushing it as a nurse, but she's also making some serious moves in real estate and investing. During the pandemic, she earned up to $20,000 a month working travel contracts, raking in $300,000 in a single year. But what's even more impressive is how she used that income to buy 2 properties, house hack her way to living mortgage free, and start building her long-term wealth through index funds and several other investments. If you've ever wondered how to make the most of your nursing income and actually turn it into real wealth, this is one episode you don't want to miss. So, Jalissa, tell us a little bit about yourself and what it is that you're currently doing for a living.
Yeah, so I am from Phoenix, Arizona. Well, I originally grew up in Southern California, but went to school out here, stayed out here, and started my nursing career. So I graduated from Grand Canyon University during COVID time, so May of 2020, yeah. So I've been a nurse for 4 years now. I've dabbled in a lot of things. So I started off as a neuro PCU nurse, and then after a year and a half, I left for travel nursing, travel nurse for 2 years. Mostly stayed on the West Coast, and then I just returned back to the ICU. So I'm now an ICU nurse at an academic teaching hospital. So
And wait, so you graduated in Phoenix, but you
yes,
were originally from California,
yes.
and now you're back in California?
No, I live here in Phoenix.
You're in Phoenix.
So
Why
Phoenix
did,
is my
why,
home now.
so why did you decide to move to Phoenix and not stay in California?
So I know a lot of California people might resonate with this. It does take a little bit longer in most cases to complete nursing school. It's just a longer wait list. There's more people that live there, even though Phoenix is growing too. But GCU offered an accelerated program. So I actually did my schooling in 3 years. So that was really enticing. So I went to GCU for the accelerated program, and I ended up staying out here because it's really easy to get into a certain specialty here in Phoenix.
So how long did you live in California before you decided to go to Phoenix?
Oh, I grew up here.
Wow.
Yeah,
What part of
I was born and raised in Riverside.
Oh my gosh. I
Yeah.
mean, at first, was it like a culture shock for you moving to Phoenix? Because it's completely different atmosphere over there.
It was, especially because the university I attended, I will say, like, I was one of the only Hispanic or Latina nurses in my program. So that was a culture shock. But I will say Phoenix is a rapidly growing city. So I'm glad I ended up staying here because there's a lot of career opportunities. So, and I've met a lot of, made a lot of good relationships and good networking here as well. So totally happy with my decision.
I see. And do you still have your family in California?
Yeah, I do.
Everyone.
So I actually did a travel assignment in California because they still live over there. So
Wow. Wow.
yeah,
Okay. So, and go over your education. Like, how long? You said it was a 3-year program because it was an accelerated program. Did
exactly. So it's like total curriculum of 4 years, but I squished it into 3 years. And so in high school, I already had college credits like coming in to my 4 year program. So that already put me ahead a whole entire semester.
Wow. And did you have to take out loans?
I did. I took out one $25,000 loan, and then I paid that back during travel nursing. So
Wow. Only
yeah.
$25,000?
Yep, I did get a lot of scholarship money through GCU, which was another reason why I chose GCU. I honestly wanna say that now they changed their, tuition has been raised and they changed their scholarship structure, unfortunately, but when I was going to school, if you maintained a certain GPA, you were guaranteed, I think it was around 8 to $10,000 a semester.
Wow, that is pretty good because I went to school in Adelphi University. So I'm from New York. And when I first went to school, it was me and Monica. We went to a community college because we didn't want to end up spending too much money on college.
Right.
And thankfully, we were poor enough that the government provided assistance, so we didn't have to
Yeah.
pay for the college tuition. But then when we went to the university, because we had to transfer out, we couldn't even get
Right.
into the community college; it was too competitive. We ended up going to a private university, and the tuition was like $17,000 a semester.
Oh,
But
wow.
I know it was really expensive. But thankfully, we only went there for 2 years, and they
Yeah.
did offer like a 3,000, I think 3,000 to $3,500 scholarship per semester if you maintain the 3.0 GPA or above. So that
Yeah,
did
that's kind
help
of
a little
similar.
bit.
Like ours were ranges on the GPA. So if you maintained a 3.8 and above, which I did even through the nursing program, I would get, I want to say it was 8,500 a semester.
Wow, you
So
maintained the 3.8 and
I
above.
did during the nursing program.
And it was
So I wanted
accelerated.
that scholarship money.
Oh,
So,
wow.
hmm
Yeah, because before I got into the nursing program, I was studying business. Like I wanted to
oh,
get a
wow.
business degree. So my GPA was like 3.85, I would say,
hmm
something like that. But then when I got into the nursing program, it
That's
dipped. It was
another
like
ball
three.
game.
Yeah, by the time I graduated, my GPA was like 3.26 or something like that.
Yeah.
It was pretty bad.
Yeah.
So, okay, so then you ended up graduating. What did you do after graduating?
So after graduating, it was kind of weird just to give a background of like the whole COVID times. I finished my last two semesters, or I'm sorry, last two semesters, last 2 months online because I left for spring break, which was my last semester of school, and then didn't come back because of COVID. And then I still had already applied for my license here in Arizona. So I had already had the plan to stay here in Arizona. So I still followed through with that plan. I'm sorry. I actually landed a job with a big healthcare system here. It's called Banner Health prior to getting my NCLEX or my nursing license. So past my NCLEX came out here and started on the neuro PCU night shift.
Wow,
And then I
before
also took advantage of kind of the side hustles that
yeah.
came about because of COVID. So I was doing vaccinations, like mass vaccinations for COVID during my
Oh,
first year
wow.
of nursing as well.
How much were they paying you with the vaccination job?
They were paying $50 an hour just to
Wow.
stand in line and just poke people. Like they would come through their cars and we would just give vaccinations.
Don't you just wish they still those jobs still existed?
I know. I'm like,
And it's really chill too, because you know, I mean, the patients that you get there, most of them for the most part are fairly healthy because they walk in to get vaccinated, right? So
exactly.
yeah, so
Yeah.
you don't have to
Well, we
deal with
did
acutely ill patients.
yeah, we did mass vaccinations at the Cardinal Stadium actually. So it was just like a drive-through type of deal and we would just give the vaccinations. They would provide lunch, they would provide dinner. You would literally just go on an app and pick up a shift.
Oh my gosh, the good
Yeah.
old days.
Yeah.
I mean, it was bad, but it was good for nurses,
Right,
right?
right.
Yeah, there's a video that I put out like 2 weeks ago, 2 weeks from the date that we're filming this video, probably months after you guys watched this video. But there was this nurse who was working during COVID, and she was picking up all these emergency contracts with Crucial. She ended up making close to $1 million that year, like in
What?
2020, 2021. Yeah,
That is crazy. I mean, I believe it.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
because yeah, during that first year of that I was a new grad, they were even allowing us new grads to pick up those emergency shifts. So they would do like certain contracts like work 4 shifts, so one extra shift a week for 4 weeks straight, and then upon completion of that, you get a $3,000 bonus on top of your overtime pay as well. So, yeah, so I was doing that right after I got off of orientation, which was like about a 3 month new grad training. I was also picking up those emergency shifts.
Man, you know, I
Mhm.
had a discussion before that with that nurse and many other nurses who have done travel contracts in the past.
Yeah,
And I've always hated the fact that you have to get your nursing license in another state before you can practice in another state.
right.
And nursing is pretty much the same no matter where you go.
It is.
Right?
It
You're not going to
is.
change your nursing practice just because you're in a different state. We all
Right.
went to school and learned the same thing.
Exactly, and took the same national board. So,
Yeah.
I mean, luckily during COVID times, though, I don't know really how the travel nurse market is right now, but agencies were reimbursing you to apply for those licenses. So, I had my travel agency pay for my California license, which is kind of pricey compared to applying for an Arizona compact license, but they actually reimbursed me for that, which was nice.
Now, for some, there's a lot of people who watch our channel, watch our videos, who don't even have a nursing degree. They're interested in nursing, but
Yeah.
don't have a nursing degree. Can you just go over what a compact license is?
So with a compact license, there's only certain participating states. I believe it's like around 20, it's 20 something participating states now. So I'm lucky that I do live in a state that's part of the compact license. So you can go travel to those states that are part of that network and work there without having to apply for a license specific to that state.
Mhm. See, and I just wish this were a national thing
It should
because,
be because like you
right?
said, nursing's the same everywhere. So
Yeah, it makes no sense.
yeah.
So when you get this compact license, is it one fee for this compact license and it covers you across all these states?
Yeah, so when I actually just did this recently because I renewed my license here in Arizona. You pay the fee for your state, and then you literally just hit a check mark to apply for a compact license. There's no additional charge, additional fee, or anything like that.
Wow, that's
And
amazing.
so,
And how
yeah,
often do you have to renew it?
in Arizona, it's every 3 years.
Every 3 years. Wow.
I know California, it's annually, right?
Yes. Okay, so you ended up getting your this job for $50 an hour giving vaccinations, and this was like during COVID. And you said it happened before you even got your nursing license. Is that right?
So I landed my new grad job, which was, in an acute care hospital on the neuro PCU prior to graduating and passing my NCLEX. And then within 2, 3 months of working, I found this job just through friends to vaccinate. Yeah, for $50 an hour.
Wow. Because
Mm-hmm.
it's so hard here in California. I mean, during COVID, it was easier, right? I don't know. Is it
Right.
still the same way now in Phoenix or has it changed?
As far
As
as
far as getting a job before you even graduate nursing school.
Oh, no. I'm actually training multiple new graduate nurses right now, and they landed the job prior to passing NCLEX. So the job
Really?
market for nursing is different here, I will say, because it's easy to get I want to say it's easy to be honest, to get a job prior to graduating.
Yeah.
So, and in any specialty.
Mm.
So you literally just apply for the new graduate program and then you pick your top 3 specialties and they will place you just depending on availability. But you are able to get into a specialty right away as a new grad.
That is amazing. Does the school help you or do you just
Nope.
apply on your own?
You just apply on your own.
Oh,
But we
yeah.
have
It's
such a
it's
big healthcare system here that, and I mean, and Phoenix is growing so much, and we do not, I mean, I feel like this is across the country. We do not have enough nurses to take care
yeah.
of all these people. So,
Every time I say that, it's actually that's a fact, and I've stated this several times. There have been studies that have been done on this. We do have a nursing shortage, and people don't believe it. They
oh no,
think,
we do.
oh, yeah, because they think, oh, I'm short staffed, but we're short staffed in our department, but it's because management doesn't want to hire nurses, which is not entirely accurate. It's just if you look, I work for Kaiser Permanente, which is a
Yeah.
hospital system out here. If you look in the hospital website, the career page, and you search for just staff nursing positions, you will see that there are over two, maybe
Yep.
3,000 positions across the Kaiser system
Yep.
just for staff nurses, right?
Yeah.
So,
I
and
100%
doesn't
believe
even
that.
include NPs, right? So,
Right. Same thing with our. So I work for Banner Health, which is a huge healthcare organization, just like Kaiser is in California. And same thing, there is just pages and pages of open positions.
yeah.
So
Okay, so you ended up getting this job, right? In the
yes,
neuro is PCU, correct?
PCU.
Okay,
Hmm.
can you just explain to people who don't understand what that is, what PCU stands for?
So it's progressive care unit. So I like to explain it as it's the middle, the step down from ICU, but it's above med surg still. So it's like that acuity that lies in the middle.
Yeah.
So you do have different ratios in the two. I was on a neurological floor, so a lot of ischemic strokes. We didn't take care of hemorrhagic strokes due to the level of the hospital, but like seizures, things like that, all neurological disorders. So I would have anywhere from, oh man, but staffing during those times was rough, but 5 to 6 patients because we're not unionized here. So
Wow.
yeah,
Jeez.
it was tough.
Oh
That's why I'm
my.
in the ICU now because I like to have 2 patients.
That's true. That's true. So, are
Yeah.
you in neuro ICU now or just
Yes,
ICU?
I'm in your ICU now. I don't know
Okay.
how honestly I fell into neurology, but I just ended up sticking with it And I really do enjoy the specialty. I know a lot of people don't like it, but I love it.
Yeah. So you mentioned that PCU stands for Progressive Care Unit. And for people who may be like on the East Coast, you probably refer to it as a step down unit. So that's
Yeah,
another
I've
term
heard
for it.
step down. I've like heard those terms interchangeably. So
Yeah.
yeah, step
And,
down,
and
PCU. Yep.
the reason they call it step down is because it's a step down from the ICU.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Okay. So do you remember how much they were paying you when you got your first job? Not
So
the vaccination job, but the first job at a hospital.
yeah, so in 2020, they were paying me 28.82. And then I had a 18% night shift differential because I was hired on for nights. So that was like between $5 and $6 for the night shift differential. So that brought me to like $33 an hour.
Okay.
Mm.
And what did you think of your pay when they offered you 33 an hour? Did you think it was
So
reasonable for the area? Because everything
um
is going to be, based on the cost of living in the area.
oh
So
yeah,
what did you say?
100%. I believe it actually was good for relative to the cost of living here in Arizona at the time. So apartments, like I lived in a two-bedroom and I always shared an apartment with like another nurse. So I lived in a two-bedroom apartment. Rent was $1,300 and we split it. So I was actually only paying like after utilities like 700. Groceries were much cheaper. A rented Trader Joe's was like $30 and I got my groceries for 2 weeks. So I felt like it was relative to the cost of living. Not now, but times have changed and we've all felt it with inflation. So, but that time, I was single, had no kids, was sharing an apartment with, and it was a nice apartment too in a good area. I felt like it was enough to not only more than cover my bills and my fixed expenses, but also to really save and invest. And that's when my investment journey began, like, when I first got my job. So
You mentioned that it was good at a time when you were single and you didn't have kids. So do you have a partner now and do you have kids?
no. No,
Oh,
I'm still in the same situation, but I am a homeowner now, so there's like costs associated with that, which I think is really important to hit on as well
yeah.
because people don't see the hidden cost of home ownership. But and then obviously with just groceries and gas and inflation, the market has adjusted for it. They Banner actually did a huge, I think it was all of Arizona, honestly, did a huge pay adjustment a year after in 2021. So I want to say it's still relative to the cost of living here, even though prices have increased. But
I see. And are you still working for Banner Health?
I am. But now I work
Wow.
at their academic hospital in downtown Phoenix. I was working at a smaller location, like in the suburb next to Phoenix, but now I'm working in the downtown area.
Okay, let's go over some of the costs of living and what it's like to live in Phoenix because I know plenty of, even before I moved to California, there were many nurses that I worked with in New York and even techs, some of the ED techs that I work with who were considering moving to Phoenix. And I know
Yes.
Phoenix is explode. It's an explode
It's such a
a
hot
market
spot.
that's exploding across the country. Everybody's moving there, right? So how would you describe living there, first of all?
So I think it's a great place for a young, working, career-oriented professional. Downtown Phoenix itself is exploding with job opportunities, and also just the suburbs around. There's so much growth. There's so much development. A lot of new construction, and a lot of wealth is coming here because a lot of people are relocating. And you'll see that when you go to cities like Scottsdale and Paradise Valley. Lots of wealth coming in, lots of career opportunities, and everybody feels it here for sure. A very big social scene as well. You'll go out to dinner on a Tuesday, Wednesday night, and it's an hour wait because people are just out and about all the time here, which is nice.
Yeah.
Really good social scene, and lots of events here too. So,
So, what would you say about the weather though? Because I know Phoenix gets
oh
really hot.
yeah, yeah, it's terrible. I'm not gonna lie, it's terrible in the summertime, but it's so nice in the winter, and we get a lot of snowbirds and people from out of state in the winter time. So we're actually like really crowded here during the winter time, and the acuity level is up because all the elderly are here during the winter time.
I will say
So,
this. I will say this. When we moved from New York to Sacramento, we were not expecting Sacramento to be as hot as it is.
oh, it's hot
It's
there too. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't believe it's as hot as it is in Phoenix, but for about 6 to almost 7, yeah, 6 months of the year, there's like no rain whatsoever, and the temperatures can usually go anywhere from 90 degrees to 110, 115. Like this year was the hottest year we've had, and we had over 25, I think, 100-degree temperatures or 100-degree days. and then every other day was 90 degrees or above. So it
Yeah,
was
no, I
pretty
believe
hot.
it. Yeah, no. Well, here it gets more like 120 degrees, 100 in teens, but everybody just stays inside during the
Oh,
summer months. But listen, the rest of the year is
yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, and so now let's talk about everything else. So you said there's a very social scene.
Yeah.
There's a lot of wealth going into the area, and how about the housing? Because there's so many people moving to Phoenix. Is housing becoming a lot more expensive now?
I have seen the prices go up. So, for those who don't live in Arizona, just the suburbs around Phoenix are really growing. Scottsdale is very pricey, and people are definitely getting outpriced out of that market. It's just growing. It's very saturated now. So, the West Valley, which is kind of closer, it's like the first cities you hit coming when you're driving in from California, is growing because there's so much land. So, a lot of new built homes. I actually bought a new built home last year, and I'm comfortable talking about the prices. I actually got it for 365,000, which
Wait, how
now
much?
at the time, yeah, for a 3 bed 2 bath
60,
new construction home,
65,
365.
365. How many bedrooms?
3 bed 2 bath.
Wow, that's
And
amazing.
I'm
From
five
new
minutes down.
construction too.
Yeah, I'm 5 minutes down the street from a big entertainment district, from the Cardinals football stadium. Lots of, just like I said, this whole area is new. So lots of new shopping centers, new restaurants, things like that. So I just saw the potential for the appreciation in this area. And that's why I decided to go here, because they're going to continue to build instead of, for example, downtown Phoenix, Scottsdale, where there's no more land,
Yeah.
as much land, because they've already developed there. So,
I see. When
mhm,
Monica and I first moved to Sacramento, I remember within 8 months of us living here, we were like, we need to buy a house right away because it seems like everybody wants to buy a house here. And when we started looking, we did see homes that were 350,000, 400,000 for a 3 bed, 2 bath as well. But now it's like the home prices have gone up so high. We ended up spending like 697 for our house,
yeah, yeah,
and but thankfully it's dual income, right? So like it's basically like
right,
us buying a house for 335,000 each, right? um
right.
so we ended up spending that much on a house, but as we've seen over the last 7 years or so, now that house that was $350,000 back then is probably like $550,000 now.
Exactly. That's why I say you can't time the housing market. Like, for example, I thought I was getting the worst interest rate because I thought interest rates were on the rise, and now I'm so happy. I bought my house when I bought it because I got a 5.3 interest rate, and now they're
Wow.
back up in the sevens. So that's what I'm saying. You can never time it. Just my advice to nurses, because I talk to so many nurses, young nurses like me, who are interested in being a homeowner. I'm like, do it when it's right for you and
Mm,
your personal economy.
yeah.
So you can't time it, just do it when it's right for you and understand all the costs behind it. And just be ready for it, you know?
Yeah, and I made a post just today actually talking about the median home prices in Sacramento. The median home price here is about like $475,000, and someone said that that's unrealistic. That the homes over here are unaffordable. But look at people like you, for example. You're a single income earner, and you found a house that was affordable to you, right? So in
Yes.
your area, like the Phoenix area, the median home price is something like 470,000, something like that.
Yep.
Like I looked it up
Yeah.
recently.
Yeah.
And
That's
you were able
accurate.
to find the house, right? Is that about right?
Yeah, exactly. And I really want to touch on this. So I house hack. So I rent out my rooms to other nurses. So actually, I don't have a mortgage, because my mortgage is covered by my renters. So
You see that?
yeah.
You see what I'm talking about?
Mhm.
It's because you
So
played it smart.
exactly. So I always tell people the best way to get into real estate investment is to house hack. Obviously, there's different comfort levels. Like, are you okay, sharing or renting out your rooms, or do you want a house that has like a ADU? So like the attached dwelling unit, like a separate casita, a mother-in-law suite. Then you could rent out the main house, live in the ADU, or vice versa. Do whatever like in your comfort zone, but just know the less comfortable you are, the more profit you usually get. So yeah.
Exactly. I interviewed also, I know I talk about all the people that I've interviewed, but there was this pharmacist who I interviewed. He at one point had like 90 rental units, but when he started buying houses, he bought them in California, and each house here was costing him like five, six, $700,000 minimum. But what he did was, in order to afford them, was he house hacked. The first home that
Exactly.
he bought, he ended up having roommates that paid for his mortgage, and it allowed him to build that huge portfolio that he now has because he
Exactly.
made himself uncomfortable.
Exactly. And that's
Okay,
what I preach to everybody.
so let's go over how were you able to afford this first house? Like, how did you save up to the point where you were able to put a down payment on the house? And, like how many hours, additional hours did you have to work for this? Just go over that process. Like, how much work did you have to put into this?
Yeah. So I'm a big believer on pay yourself first. I have always believed that, and luckily my parents really instilled that in me. Like literally, even if I got $20 allowance from my grandparents, I would split it in half and I would put $10 in savings and $10 for spending. So I carried that with me even when I became a new grad and was making $33 an hour, which in the grand scheme of things wasn't a lot. So from the moment, even with all the fluctuation in pay I've had, I've always paid myself first and I've always saved at least minimum 20% of my income. So that number, I even increased that number to 50% of my income when I was travel nursing. So again, started saving 20%, didn't get into consumer debt, never had credit card debt or anything like that, and then left for travel nursing. And I really used that income, those crazy COVID times, those crazy contracts where you're making 16 to 20K a month, depending on the contract, to really leverage myself. So I would say 50% of my income. So even though I was making on paper, I made 200,000 a year for 2 years, 2021 and 2022. I lived like I was making 60,000.
Wow.
So all that income that I saved, then I used it to put a down payment on my house, and I've made that money back because I only had to put 5% down, but I have collected over $15,000 in rental income already. So
How much?
over $15,000 in rental income. So I've
Okay.
made that 5% that I put as a down
Yeah.
payment back already.
So you put 5% down payment for it.
I did.
Man, okay, let's go over this because a lot of people don't realize how nice it was during COVID. You said you made between 200 and $250,000.
For
Yeah,
2021 and
and
2022. And they
yeah.
were, so two of them were 48-hour contracts. One was in New Mexico, one was in California, and those were pay of after taxes. I was taking home 4,600 a week. Yeah. And then so those were my two like big contracts. And then after that, I did a contract in Tucson, which is a city 2 hours away from Phoenix, and I was still able to qualify for the stipend as well because I had to live down there. It was 2 hours and a half away. And then I did a local contract where I did not get the stipend, but I had a high hourly rate. So I
Mm,
just leveraged all my contracts. Yes, my pay fluctuated with each contract. I had only two high paying ones in the very beginning of 2021, but like I said, I literally lived like I was making less than 60,000 even though I was making almost 200.
yeah, and I think that's the best way to live your life if your income continues to increase. For me and Monica, what we've done is when we moved from New York to California, our cost of living was ridiculous in New York to begin with. You would think that all of California is expensive, but it's not. Thankfully, we ended up finding a spot here in this part of California where the Sacramento area is like half the cost of what it takes to live on the West Coast, like all the way by the ocean. And our starting salary here, I think mine was something like $65 an hour, which is not much compared to what I was making in New York. I was making like $50 an hour, $53 an hour in New York. But very quickly, me and Monica decided that she would go per diem. So her salary when she started before she was per diem was 67 at Kaiser. Now she's making $133 an hour, but I'm making $103 an hour. And what we did was when we started making more money, we picked up a couple of extra hours here and there. And within 1 year during COVID, we just decided to just pay off all our student loan debts, our auto loan, and we had a personal loan that we used for a down payment on our house, which is ridiculous. Like, I don't recommend anybody do that. But it was like a $70,000 loan. And yeah, but we paid all of that off in 1 year. And after we paid it off, we decided, okay, let's work a lot less at our job so we can spend more time with each other. And that's what we've done now. But instead of us getting into real estate, because it's something that I still want to do in the future, I decided we should focus on our business, which is initially it started off as a YouTube channel. And through that YouTube channel, all the feedback that I used to get from our subscribers, they would look at the spreadsheets that I was making and showing on the videos, and they asked if I would sell those spreadsheets. And I did. I created a website, started selling them, and they started purchasing those spreadsheets from our website, which then allowed us to use that money to build more things. We ended up creating like a coaching program, and now we're working on an app for nurses. So
That's
that is a
amazing.
huge project, but I think it's going to be one of the best healthcare apps available for nurses to help them with their finances and find a job in a location that has a low cost of living with high pay.
I like that you guys started with digital products because I actually want to kind of dabble into that after I'm doing real estate investing right now, but I think digital products is a great side hustle for nurses. And then
Yeah.
like it opened the door for so many other things for you. So
Absolutely. If you think about it, I think, doing anything related to the internet is one of the best ways to make money because you could be anywhere in the world
exactly.
while you make money. With real estate, it's pretty similar if you can have a management company manage the properties for you. But I felt like the reason why I'm working on this app is because it can have an exponential impact on the nursing community, which is not something that I can do with real estate. Like with real estate, that's a way to secure your wealth, I believe.
Yes,
Because everybody needs a place to live. So it's
exactly.
one of the best ways for somebody to secure their wealth. If you've already also amassed wealth, one way to diversify it is to get into real estate, right?
Exactly. And I'm
So,
all
so
about diversification. I'm also big on index funds. So I started off with the stock market, but now after my first house hack, it inspired me. I saw the potential of wealth, the a wealth building tool that real estate is. So I actually just closed on my second property 2 months ago. But I think it's good to be well diversified, have cash flow, but also a wealth builder, which real estate provides. So I think it's great to have different streams of income and wealth building. So
so tell me, how did you get into investing in index funds? Like, not many nurses even know what an index fund
no, they
is.
do not. Which I'm literally known at work for, helping people set up their 401ks and Roth IRAs and all that. But honestly, I'm lucky. I'm very blessed that I came from a family that was financially literate. I mean, my dad was not born here in the United States. He came when he was 18, but he really like broke that generational curse and he became financially literate and passed that on to me. But I will say I've done so much of my own research and homework on my own. He just showed me the basic concepts of like, saving, spending, and then tiding, donating. But then as far as like index funds, YouTube University. I just watched a bunch of YouTube videos. I read Rich Dad Poor Dad when I was 21 years old, and that
Yeah.
changed my life. And I know you'll hear a lot of investors and a lot of people that are, financially literate mention that book, but that book truly just changed my mindset on how I view assets and liabilities in life. So, I read that when I got my big girl job as a nurse, and I've just kept on going from there.
I gotta tell you, you're kind of a unicorn in the nursing industry, especially because the majority of nurses just they're either living paycheck to paycheck, and they're so focused on just making sure those bills are paid that they don't pay attention to their future, the potential of earning future income through side investments like index funds or real estate or other avenues.
Yeah,
So
and I tell others, I'm like, you show up for 12 hours to take care of others, to work for a company. The least you can do is spend a couple hours a week investing in yourself and educating yourself. So,
yeah.
and that might be like listening to a financial podcast on the way to work or just reading a chapter after work, things like that on your days off, watching a YouTube video. But you need to invest in yourself for sure, in your education, your financial education.
The sad part is that I believe not many people would be willing to do that because they find it boring, right? And that's what's preventing them from making more money and getting to a point where they don't have to work as hard at their nursing jobs. Is because they say, I'm not really into the numbers, it seems too complicated, or I don't know, I
I
feel
hear
like
that a
all these
lot.
podcasts are so boring. I don't want to read a book on finance. you
Yeah.
know
Yeah, but it's definitely a mindset shift because I think people view money as, just to buy things and pay the bills. But in reality, you need to view money as time and freedom. So once you make that mindset shift, you view your money so different.
Yeah, I totally agree. There's this quote from this famous person that I follow. What's his name? Byron Gold, oh no, Myron Golden,
Oh, I
believe
know
is his.
him. Yes, he's awesome.
Yeah, I remember one time he was making a talk about what differentiates, people who are successful to people who aren't, people who succeed in business to people who aren't. And he said the one thing that they always think about is the value of their time. Like he compares someone who is offered a gift of, let's say, $1 million with no strings attached. Would they take that money? And everybody would say yes. But then if you attach the value of that dollar, of those $1 million, to the fact that if I give you this $1 million today, you only have one day to live, would you still take that money? No, like nobody would take it if it
Right.
meant your life, right? And
That's
that's kind of how we are with our jobs. You just waste your life away in a lot of these cases because you're giving your time to someone else in exchange for money. So that's
exactly. I'm
that's the
so
way I
big on
always
that.
look at it.
Yep. I view it as time and freedom. And I honestly enjoy work so much more because I use that money that I'm my W-2 job to deploy into assets. And I know that I'm 25 years old. So I know that even when I'm 35, I'm going to enjoy the fruits of my labor and all the investments I'm making now. I might not be able to see it now. And that's where that delayed gratification also comes in, which people don't want. They want instant gratification. So, yeah, it's really all about mindset. So if people took the time to just retrain their brain and how they view their finances, then I think it would be a lot easier. But it just
Yeah.
starts with making that mindset shift.
It's the same thing that happened with this couple. I don't know if you've watched Our Rich Journey, the couple
Oh,
from YouTube.
okay. I'm so glad you brought them up. They're my inspiration. I started watching their YouTube videos, and they're the ones that literally just like totally changed my mindset and my financial plan. They introduced me to Roth IRAs, brokerage accounts. So, yeah, I love them.
Yeah, that's exactly. It's because of them that I decided to
Yes.
get into, reaching financial independence and hopefully retiring
Yes.
early.
Yes. I want to go to Portugal and meet them.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So can
They're
you
my
believe it?
favorite.
When they started their journey, they were working in the San Francisco area, like over here in Northern California
In the
with a
Bay Area,
very high
yeah.
cost of living. And what they did was they ended up saving like almost 70% of their income for about 2 years or so, for a really long time. And they didn't eat out. They cooked at home as often as possible.
Side
They didn't
hustled. Yeah.
right? They didn't go out at all. They just like spent time together, but they didn't spend money outside of their home. And for 2 years, they did that. Then they started making YouTube videos about how they were going to move to Portugal because they reached financial independence and they were going to be retiring early. And they ended up choosing Portugal because they speak English in Portugal. It's like
Mhm.
pretty much the one of the primary languages over there. The school system is great and it's extremely safe and affordable, right? And the
Right.
healthcare system is awesome.
Right.
So they've been living there for a long time now. And I remember they made a post on Instagram, like I think it was like last year. I believe the husband's name is Aman,
Yes.
something like
Come on.
that,
Mhm.
right? Yeah. He made a post talking about how they're now making $200,000 a month. Like
That is
that just blows my
insane.
mind.
It's insane. And that's what
Yeah.
I'm saying. It's a couple years of discomfort
Yeah.
for a great future. And that's where the gratification comes in. You have to have delayed gratification, which a lot of, and it's not just healthcare professionals, a lot of people do not have that. So, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Okay,
Hmm.
so when you started getting into index funds, can you tell me which index funds you picked and why?
So I started my Roth IRA as soon as I started working, and I picked BTSAX, which is a total stock market. So it's the S&P 500 companies, which are the 500 biggest companies in the United States, like Apple and Meta and Tesla and Google, just throwing out some companies that people know. But it's those 500 big companies and then also a bunch of small cap companies. So I believe it's like over 2,000 companies. It's the total US stock market, and that averages anywhere from 10 to 12% return every year. I
Mhm.
mean, right now I'm up 18% because the stock market has gone up like crazy this year. But when I was 21 and opened that account, I would only invest 250. I just started with 250 a month because that's what I felt like I could do. And then gradually I've increased that, and now I've been maxing out my Roth IRA in VTSAX, that total stock market, fund for the last 2 years, and I've just seen so much exponential growth on my money. So, and it's exciting to know that it's going to continue to grow. So, I always tell people to just block out the noise, block out the election, block out the highs and lows of the stock market. You just keep investing the same amount every single month, regardless of what's going on, and you'll thank yourself later.
Absolutely. I agree. And one rule that I set for myself is if your employer gives you, let's say, a 3% raise, what I would do is I'd put 2% extra now towards my investments and keep that 1% raise for myself.
Yeah.
Right. So, and in our case, like with Kaiser, let's say we get a 5% raise, I would give 3% more towards the investments and keep the 2% for ourselves,
Exactly.
because
Yeah, so I contribute to my 401k as well. My hospital matches 4%, so I only do 4% because I do like the diversification of having a 401k and then the Roth IRA. For those that don't know, the 401k is pre-tax dollars, so you will get taxed when you withdraw that money, and then the Roth IRA is post-tax dollars, so you will not get taxed when you withdraw that money. So I think it's important to have both. But for my 401k, I do contribute the 4% match, or the 4% because I get a 4% match, and that's in the S&P 500 as well. So
yeah. So, do you have a taxable brokerage account at
I
all?
do,
Okay.
I
Do you
do,
invest in that one as well?
I do.
Wow.
So I do
Wow.
$500 a month to that one as well. And I do a ETF called VU, and that one also tracks the S&P 500. So I'm just very bullish on the S&P 500. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I know. I agree. The one that we invest in is FZEROX, I believe it's called. It's from Fidelity. We most of our investments are in Fidelity, except for our 401k, which is in Vanguard.
No,
But all of
Fidelity's
our
great for
accounts
you.
that are in Fidelity, I think they're just easier for me. They're easier to manage because I can just see all of them in one page. But
Yeah.
we have our primary taxable account is with just the Fidelity zero fee index fund in the S&P 500.
Oh, awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the good thing about Fidelity, platforms like Fidelity. I use Vanguard personally. My 401k is with Fidelity through my workplace, but all my other accounts are Vanguard. They offer low fees.
Mhm.
So that's really important for people to be aware of because if you go to a financial advisor, they charge you very high fees that in the end just end up biting into your money and your returns. So that's why I think people need to take the time to just look into these great platforms that are basically almost free. They charge very, very low cost fees to do the same thing that your financial advisor would do, where you can just set it up once and then forget it.
Yeah. And when it comes to your real estate properties, you have two now, or is there
I
still
have
one?
I have two. So I house hacked my primary house, meaning I rented out my rooms while I lived in it, and then I'm house hacking my next one. But this one is a bigger property. It's 6 rooms, so I will be renting out the rooms individually. And you get more returns that way by renting out the individual rooms.
Okay. So now I want to go over these real estate properties. So the
Mhm.
first one you said you put 5% down,
Yes.
for a total sum of how much down?
With closing costs and everything, it was $27,000.
Okay.
But I do want to say I got a conventional loan. So with conventional loans, you have to put 5% down, but you can come in with as little as 3.5% if you get a first time home buyer loan and FHA loan. But just I had good credit, so I was able to qualify for a conventional loan and kind of get better terms, like a better interest rate, just slightly better. So I ended up going that route.
And how much is your mortgage on that one?
2450.
And how did you find your first tenant?
It was actually a friend that I worked with. So, and then my other tenant, I've just had, or my other room, spare room, I met so many nurses along my journey of travel nursing. So, anytime I have somebody come into Phoenix, because there's always assignments here, they just message me and I rent a room to them, a furnished room.
And all of these are travel nurses?
Mhm.
Wow. And then at what point did you decide to invest in a second property?
So after my first house hack, I kind of mentioned it before, but it just really sparked my interest in real estate and just using that as a wealth building tool. So then, exact like a year and 3 months after purchasing this home, I got another house, and then also, I mean, the all of Phoenix market is high appreciation, but I got it kind of more central in North Phoenix, closer to the downtown area, and I ended up getting a bigger home so I can rent out the rooms individually. So I'm currently stabilizing that property, meaning I'm just doing rehab on it. It is an older home, it's not a new build home. So I haven't quite starting. barely starting to rent my rooms out. I have two people occupying right now, and then I'm working on getting the other three rooms filled. But as far as like equity on homes, you can really use that to leverage your wealth. And this is kind of a big rabbit hole, but there's so many ways that you can actually make passive income using your equity on your property, that I've just connected with so many real estate mentors and investors here in the area that have showed me that. So
Mm. And how much did you pay for that second home?
it was 440, and
Yeah.
I came in with 5% down as well. So it was also like 28,000 after closing costs.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
My gosh.
Yeah, and I
So,
mean, I was able to buy a house a year after because I had no mortgage,
mhm.
because my tenants were covering it for a year. So that was all rental savings. And so I was able to save again a year later.
Yeah, one goal that Monica and I had in mind because we're moving back to New York. Like we
Oh,
have a
really?
son. Yeah, I know. We have a son now, and he's 3.5. He's gonna be 4. We have our daughter who's 18, and she's actually gonna end up going to nursing school. She switched all of her. She was doing computer science for like one semester, and she was like, "Dad, this is boring. I don't know why I'm doing this." Initially, she wanted to do computer science because she wants to do it for the money, and I said, you had an interest in medicine before. Why don't you just do nursing? And plus, like, we can help her with the process, right?
Yeah,
Like, we've told her what classes she needs to take, how she
exactly.
needs to go about this.
Mhm.
And I have connections in the nursing field. So, like, if she wants to go into like become a nurse practitioner or CRNA or whatever the case may be, she can have access to any mentor she wants because I have friends in the area, right?
Awesome. Yeah.
So we're gonna end up moving there in about a year and a half. And when we do move there, I don't plan to work as a nurse. I may pick up like maybe a per diem job so I
Yeah.
can still stay relevant to the nursing profession. But the goal is to sell our house. And we have at this point about $300,000, $350,000 in equity after taxes and fees. When we close on our house, it'll be maybe like 290 to
Yeah.
300,000, and we'll have that plus the money we're saving right now, so that when we do move, we'll probably have maybe like 400 to $450,000. My goal is to have 2 years set aside so that we can pay off our rent with that money, and we don't have to buy a house or anything. I don't want to buy a house in New York; it's too expensive.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
we've
I
looked
hear
into it;
you.
it's way too expensive. So we're gonna rent because we can rent. Believe it or not, it's very expensive. A 3 bed, 2 bath. The lowest you can get is maybe like $4,500 a month for an apartment,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But we can stretch out. If we get something for $4,500 a month, we can probably pay 2 years and a half in advance of
Right.
rent.
Right.
Then we're going to use maybe $100,000 to $150,000 to invest in our business, and then another $100,000 to $150,000 to invest in real estate. So that's
A
the
lot of
goal.
people do out of state investing.
Yeah,
So I have a lot of real estate connections here in Phoenix that, and they're big out of state investors too. So you just let me know. So
absolutely.
I can,
Yeah, and
yeah, yeah.
it's crazy because interviewing all of you, like I just got a message you and I'm like, "Hey, can you give me some advice about real estate
Yeah.
in this area?"
Yeah.
It's really
Right.
cool.
Yeah. And I honestly, I really want to get into digital products. So I'll probably be reaching out to you as well, and we can just kind of pick each other's
Yeah.
brains.
Yeah, I interviewed this. She's not even a nurse, a CAA, so a certified anesthesiology assistant.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I
I
haven't heard of that role
interviewed her
actually, but
previously,
that's cool.
and I know, right? It's insane. So what she did was she ended up getting a bachelor's degree in, I think it was like biology or chemistry, something like that. And she ended up doing that she worked in the area for like a couple of years, and she felt like she needed something more. She wasn't making enough money. So she found out before she started watching our channel about CAAs, certified anesthesiology assistants. And it turns out that they actually make a lot of money, like 250, $350,000 a year.
Wow.
And you don't need to be a nurse to become one. So her name is Chabeli
Mhm.
that's her real name, but she goes by like CAA Lifestyle on Instagram. And last year, I think she made close to like $350,000.
Wow.
And
Good for
she's not
her.
working, 5 days a week either,
Yeah.
which is amazing. But when I interviewed her, she didn't even have a link in her bio. And she was making all these videos talking about what she does for a living and how much she makes and what the process was. And I said, you really should be at least like selling a digital product, showing
Like
people how to do
capitalize
this.
on that because people
Yeah,
come to you for information like you're an expert. So people want access to you and your knowledge. So
exactly.
yeah.
And immediately after I told her that, like literally the same day, she just put a link in her bio,
Yeah, but
and now she's
sometimes it's
got
like the
yeah.
littlest tweaks like that. You're like, I didn't even think about that. And the little like it's like the simple little tweaks.
Yes, yeah, it's something so simple,
Yeah.
but it actually could make you extra money on the side.
Yeah.
So why not
Yeah.
do it?
Hmm.
So, yeah, something as simple as that. And there's plenty of other nurses who didn't realize they could add something of value that they could sell, even at a
Exactly.
low price, it's fine, but just so they can make additional income on the side. And that's something that you should work on, especially as you begin to build your portfolio,
Yeah.
because a lot of people are looking for guidance in that area.
Oh yeah, I've already kind of built within my network here. I've built a reputation of just being like, the financial guru, real estate girl. So, like I said, I help a lot of coworkers set up their retirement accounts and high yield savings and things like that. So, um, right now, I love to provide that value to people. It's something I'm so passionate about, especially for healthcare workers because we work so hard for 12 hours. Like, make your money work for you. So I love providing that value for free, but I definitely want to end up building a community and kind of like what you guys are doing. And what I've seen, there's a lot of nurses out there. I think people are becoming more comfortable talking about finances. I really like that wave. So I've seen a lot of other nurses offering that to other healthcare professionals. So I'm definitely need to jump on that.
Yeah. You know what I would say at the very least for all nurses out there. I know social media is like it consumes all of us, right? But at the very least, if you want to get on board with the future of, digital marketing and making money online, you're going to need a presence online. And people
Yes.
need to know what you do in order for you to make money off of it.
Right.
So, at the very least, what people should be doing, nurses should be doing, is making their presence known. And
Yeah, building
you
a
know,
personal brand. Yeah.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Even if you're not selling anything initially,
Right.
at, at
Right.
least talk about your story because
Yeah.
eventually you might want to monetize it or people will want you to monetize it.
Yeah,
They will
and
be
that's
paying.
what
Yeah.
exactly, and that's what I had to get over. And I'm still honestly, it's a little limiting belief I have too. I'm that I'm working on, but I stop caring what people think. Just post, just go for it. At the end of the day, actually, nobody cares. You do what makes you happy and what you're passionate about, and talk about it. And honestly, people are gonna listen. You're gonna provide that value. So I'm trying to get over that too. And hopping on things like this, like to get over that fear, because I think a lot of us have that fear. So I, you just gotta jump ship and just do it.
Did you hear about Stephanie Beggs? Do you know who that is?
Oh, yes, she writes. She sells on Etsy.
Exactly. Okay,
Yeah.
so she was interviewed at by Forbes, and what she did, first of all, she like worked as an ER nurse in California, right?
Hmm.
And while she was in nursing school, she was making these study guides so she can practice with them and she can ace her classes. And she started making YouTube, TikTok videos about them, and people just fell in love with like her writing style and her
Right.
designs. And they asked her if she was selling the study guides, and she wasn't for a long time. But then she decided to put all of these study guides on Etsy, and she ended up making like $2 million online in
Mhm.
1 year, something like
Crazy.
1 year, I think it was, just by selling these study guides.
Yeah.
I remember I was doing research on this, and she sold like 80,000 guides from her Etsy shop alone. And then there's this other one. Her name is Nurse in the Making. Oh my gosh, the amount of money that she has made. She has sold over 200 and I think 80,000 study guides and flashcards and books on her Etsy shop alone. She also has a website. Like I calculated it, she must have made at least like $30 million in the last 3 years just selling all of these things.
That is insane. And all these tools are literally at our fingertips.
Yeah.
Canva, there's, AI now. Chat GPT can help you write your Etsy listings. I mean, these are all at our fingertips. So we need to capitalize on that.
Yeah, and now that you mention AI, like I've been talking about this topic a lot lately, and it's because everybody needs to get on board with
Oh,
AI.
yeah. And if you don't get on, you're going to be left behind.
Exactly. And just treat it as a personal assistant. It's not complicated at all, guys. You ask it questions, it will give you answers. If you want feedback on things that you're writing, things that you're trying to develop for a digital product, it will give you feedback. And you can ask it to be very precise. You can ask it to expand on the feedback. You can ask it to critique your work in any
Yeah,
way
you
that
can
you
even
want.
ask like the certain tone. You can even say, I want my who's ever reading this to feel friendly and inviting and welcomed, and it'll totally change the tone of it if you don't want to sound like a robot. So I learned
Exactly.
that from somebody, and I'm like, it actually did make a difference because I was creating rental listings to rent my private rooms in my house, and I'm like, whoa, I didn't even have to think to write this.
Yeah, it's scary how good these programs are at just crafting things for you.
Yeah,
And I don't know if you've ever used Claude AI, but that's the one I'm using now. And
I've
it's
heard of it,
even
but I haven't tried it myself yet.
at first I said to myself, I don't know, this doesn't seem as good as ChatGPT, but believe it or not, it is a million times better in my opinion.
God, okay,
It is
I'm going to
so good.
try that after we
Yeah.
get off this podcast.
It even does like mock-ups for you. So like if you want to build a, I don't know, like a website or an app or a magazine or a digital product, you can ask it to create a mock-up for you with your idea and it will
Wow.
do that and it'll show you what it looks like. And then you can tweak it based on your input. It'll tweak it for you. So that's how I've been developing my app. I give it my ideas, I tell it what I want, and then it'll give me the structure of how that app should look. I also ask it to give me mockups, and then I bring that to my development team because I hired a team of developers to build my app. And then, based on that feedback that I've given them, they then put their own, human touch
Human
to it, the
touch,
human
yeah.
element
Hmm.
to it, which is just working with AI and humans at the same time that are developing a product. I think is amazing.
Yeah, AI is here to stay. It's already changing the game, and I'm a little scary, but I'm also excited to
It
see
is.
all it's going to do. So, and we definitely need to capitalize on it.
Thankfully, I will say this. We as nurses, I think we're pretty secure in our profession, though, when it comes to being replaced by AI. I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon, but it's not something we should discount because eventually, we will be replaced. And I'm sure of that.
Yes, yes. And that's why I tell all the nurses you need to, learn how to handle your finances because we are replaceable at the end of the day. All of us are. So just use it to buy back your time and freedom.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay. So now let's go back again. I want to know, give me all the details. Have you ever had any issues with your tenants?
Issues with my tenants. You know what? I've been so lucky and I have not. I know people say there's a lot of horror stories, and I'm fully aware, things can go south, but I thoroughly vet my tenants. Luckily, we might have to touch back on this when with my new house because these are going to be people I don't already have some kind of relationship with, but I use a platform called Turbo Tenant that runs a background check, an income verification check, and all those checks. So I thoroughly vet my tenants. I do phone call interviews, I meet them in person, I establish rules up front and regulations because we're all sharing the same house. So I've been able to mitigate and just like prevent any serious issues from happening, luckily.
Mhm.
So I
How,
think it's all about the work up front, to be
mhm.
honest.
How did you find out about Turbo Tenant?
I went to a real estate conference this year and I heard a lot of people talking about it. So it's a one-time annual fee of, I believe it's $115, 100 $120, and you write leases through there that are compliant with your state. You can upload documents that can pay you directly through Turbo Tenant, provides a receipt to the tenant and you for like tax purposes and things like that. So it's a great platform.
Wow. So
Hmm.
you can write your leases, get
Hmm.
legal docs, you can do
Yep.
background checks, you can do income
Mhm.
verification. That's
Yes.
amazing.
Everything in one platform. It's amazing.
Whoever
Yeah,
came up with that idea is a genius.
I know. Amazing.
Wow. Okay. And have you had issues with the house at all? Like any plumbing issues, heating issues, anything like that?
So with this new build home, and this is exactly why I went with a new build home for my first house because I was gone travel nursing still and I didn't want to deal with any headaches. And luckily, there's warranties on new build homes. So, all your big ticket items like your roof, that has a warranty of 10 years by the builder. Your HVAC has a warranty of 3 years by the builder. So I haven't had any maintenance issues with this home. However, my second home is a 1970s build. So I had to go through the learning curve of renovating and putting up drywall and fixing electrical and getting quotes from different contractors. So that was a big learning curve. But luckily, I had set reserves aside and consulted with the real estate mentor prior to purchasing the house. So I went in with an idea of how much that was going to be. So I wasn't surprised by the costs of all that work. So
How much money have you put into it so far,
I
besides the amount that you put down?
18,000. And that
Okay.
was with contracting work, and it's also fully furnished. So I'm offering fully furnished rooms because that just attracts more tenants. So
Yeah, that's pretty reasonable, I think,
yeah, yeah, it's pretty reasonable,
I
especially
was
with the cost of
expecting a
labor
lot.
now and things like
Yeah.
that. So yeah, hmm
And by when do you expect it to be fully rented out?
by January. So
January.
right now, it's 6 rooms. Right now, I'm at 50% occupancy. So I'm expecting that after the holidays, I'll be able to reach full occupancy. I have a couple lined up, actually, potential for January move-in dates because some people have leases ending at that time and want to. With the cost of living, a lot of people are going towards sharing a house and just renting out a room, because it's more affordable. You build that sense of community. Luckily, like, I get along with all my tenants. We're all young, career oriented individuals, so it just works out.
Yeah. And currently you said you have two tenants in that one, but you'll have
Mhm.
four by January?
Yes.
Oh, that's awesome. And
Yeah.
is it usually like single people that you have in these rooms?
Yeah, it's like single young people, 20s, like early 30s. That's usually the demographic that are attracted to this co-living
I
type of
see.
style.
I see.
hmm
So no wild parties in the house at all, huh?
No, no. And like I said, I make people sign a property rules agreement through Turbo Tenant that
Mm.
Turbo Tenant provides prior to getting into the house. So
Oh, yeah. That's
yeah,
awesome. I love that.
yeah.
So now I
It's all the
know,
upfront work.
yeah, now I know what website to use when I do end up buying real estate properties.
Yes.
That's what I'm
hmm
gonna use. So after this second property, what is your goal?
So I kind of mentioned this. I want to just diversify my income. So now that I have 2 properties, I just really want to stabilize those. And then also, I want to get into the digital product space and coaching with for financial wellness for nurses. 'Cause I'm really big on that. I've already built a reputation for it, but now I just want to branch out more and then continue what I've been doing. It's all about consistency, right? So index fund investing, I already luckily stabilized my emergency fund in a high yield savings, but just continue doing that work. So,
I love that.
mhm.
And
Yeah.
overall, can we go through your living expenses? How much is actually coming out of your pocket to pay for your living expenses today?
So I cover my mortgage is covered. I'm just going to use this house that I'm currently in, my first house hack, because this property is completely stabilized. My second property, I just closed on it 2 months ago, so we're working on that. But for the last 2 years, I've lived in this house. My mortgage has been covered. I do cover utilities. So my utilities are $450, and then I don't have a car payment. I don't have credit card payments. I don't have student loan payments. Groceries are about 500 because I like to go to Whole Foods and Sprouts and Trader Joe's. And then gas, I probably spend another $200. And things like dining out, going to concerts here and there, traveling. I travel hack, so I don't really spend money when I travel. Um, I'll give it another $600. So I'm just under 2,000, around
Yeah,
1,800 to 2,000 for my living expenses.
yeah. Wow, that is amazing.
Mhm.
And how much are you bringing home on a monthly basis from your job?
4,800.
Wow. So you still have an additional 2,800 left over. And that's
Yes,
not
and
even
that's
considering the income that you will get from renting these properties, right?
exactly,
Wow.
exactly.
I love that.
So
You're
then,
doing it
like
right.
I said, I already established my emergency fund. So those $2,800 all go into my rental properties and then my brokerage account and then my retirement accounts. So
Yeah,
I just
exactly.
disperse that money. hmm
Yeah, and that's what people need to keep in mind. You could easily bring more than 2,800 a month after all these expenses if you didn't invest in your 401k, your Roth IRA, and the taxable brokerage account. But that money would not compound like the
Exactly.
investments do.
Exactly. And all the like dividends that I get paid out from the interest that I earn on my high yield savings, I all have that reinvesting. I don't keep that money. I just have it reinvested for that compound growth.
Great. I love that. Okay. So now, if we have some nurses who want to reach out to you, how do they go about that? Because I know right now you don't have digital products or anything like that, but they may want to ask you some questions because some people may be interested in like real estate, the real estate market in Phoenix or they may be
Yeah.
interested in other areas of
I
investment?
actually do. So I'm big on Instagram, and anyone is always free to message me. I love helping out other nurses, just learning from each other. I'm still learning myself, but love talking things all financial wellness, real estate. So my Instagram handle is it's Julissa RN. And I actually have a link tree where you can book a 30-minute call with me for free,
Awesome. I
just to have
love
a
that.
little financial wellness chat.
If you enjoyed this video, then watch this video here where I interviewed a nurse who worked PRN and travel nursing during the pandemic, and she earned close to $1 million in one single year.